Hello students. Uh, t- Today we are going to represent the information technology department. Myself is Professor Vibhavari Javle. Now here onwards the presentation, it is only basis of the selector types. In that previous mm, lectures we have seen the three types of CSS. Now here the basic is very important to go further on the basis of selector. सेलेक्टर के क्या टाइप्स है वो इंफॉर्मेशन लेने के पहले वी जस्ट रिक्वायर टू क्लियर आवर बेसिक्स एज वेल. सिंटैक्स ऑफ CSS. CSS के सिंटैक्स क्या होता है? अगर कोई प्रोग्राम के अंदर हमें CSS एलोकेट करना है तो उसका बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर क्या होना चाहिए? For that purpose I have given two example. The example one, number one. So whenever we just require to allocate the declaration part in the form of the single property, such as, see here in this example, selector is P and the declaration is in terms of the 2 points. The first is the property and its respective value. For example, here I have taken P is the selector, and in the declaration part the property name is the color and the value is blue. Now I have taken the second example as the bunch of variety of the property. In some programs, if we require to assign the number of properties over the single element, such as h1 tag, h2 tag, h3 tag, or a p tag is there, then we can assign this in this form of the second example, like selector is h1. Now the declaration part here, we require to declare in a two ways. The first is when we assign the property, the change in the color of the h1 tag should be the red and the font size should be the 12px. So here we require the two properties to be applied on the h1 tag. So for that purpose we must include this declaration, these two declaration in our CSS syntax. Hope so you understood all these basic things. Now we are going to start with different types of the class CSS selectors. The first one, CSS ID selector, CSS class selector, CSS universal selector, and the fourth one, CSS group selector. Now here in this presentation I'm gonna explain CSS group selector along with the CSS universal selector. So first one, CSS group selector. CSS group selector is mostly used so when we require to apply the same style definition over the different elements in our HTML code. That means grouping selector is used to select all the elements with the same style definitions if we require in our HTML code. It is used to minimize the code as well. The commas are used to separate each selector in a grouping selector. If we need to define the grouping selector in our program, we must require to separate those element while using the commas in between them. You can use the same class on the multiple elements also. At that same time, the same style definitions, if we require to apply over the number of elements we need, at that time we must require the CSS group selector. Here I have given one example with and without group selector. The first we can see with without using the group selector. Here I have mentioned one example. I have used the h1 tag along with the two properties and its respective value. The first one is the color is red and the font size should be uh, 20 pixel. Here these two properties I have applied on the h1 tag. At that time, if I require to apply the same property and its value for the h2 tag, then the syntax should be h2, the color red, font size 20 pixel. And the same property if I require to apply on the h3 tag, then I need to allocate the syntax like h3, the color red, font size and the 20 pixel. So to apply these same properties over the three different elements, we must require to um, assign each and every element separately. But when here see, in above we require the same style definitions over the h1, h2, h3 elements without group selector. And the next one I have given one example, the same example while using the group selector. Here, while applying the group selector, css group selector, then for the above requirement syntax should be like this: h1, h2, h3, and the same style definitions as the color red, font size should be 20 pixel. Now I have shown one HTML code in which I have been used the CSS group selector. See here the same example. From that same example I just put this h1, h2 and uh, h3 tag, okay, and the same style definition is there, the color red and the font size should be the 20 pixel. And only, and these three group selector should be assigned in between the style tag open and style tag close, and this over all entire syntax should be enrolled in between the head section only of your HTML code. And the next part is for the body section of the HTML code. Here I define the statements enclosed in the each and every tags I have been assigned in the CSS group selector. So that is the h1 tag is here, the global warming is not a prediction. In between the h2 tag open, h2 tag close, I have allocate the sentence there that it's happening, and in between the h3 tag open and h3 tag close, I have mentioned one statement there that global warming must be seen as economic and security threat. So after applying the CSS group selector, so let me show you the executions. See here, the same things are applied over the statements in between the h1 tag, h2 tag and h3 tag. So you you very much aware about the features of h1 tag, h2 tag and h3 tag. So that means those are based on the font size. But here I have mentioned already that the font size should be remain same in my css group selector. Okay, अगर css group selector है मतलब मुझे वहाँ पर स्टाइल टैग ओपन चाहिए, स्टाइल टैग क्लोज चाहिए इन बिटवीन द the head section in our HTML code, and जो भी sentences रहेंगे, statements रहेंगे जो हम नीचे यूज़ करने वाले हैं, जैसे h1 होता है, h2 एंड h3 टैग होता है, तो उनके जो फॉन्ट साइज़ होते हैं कि वो इंक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर में रहते हैं, जैसे h1, h2 एंड h3. बट नाउ इधर मैंने जो प्रॉपर्टी यूज़ की है कि दी फॉन्ट साइज इज़ इक्वल टू 20 पिक्सल, मतलब सारे h1 एंड h2 एंड h3 टैग, सारे के सारे जो टैग्स है मीन वाइल जो स्टेटमेंट्स मैंने यूज़ किए हैं उनका सेम साइज़ हो गया. नाउ द नेक्स्ट वन, CSS यूनिवर्सल सेलेक्टर. Universal selector selects all the elements on the web page. it is written with the star symbol at the or asterisk symbol. It is used as a wildcard character. The CSS universal selector should be represented with the star symbol, and that should be again uh, allocated in between the style tag open and style tag close. Here I have mentioned star, the color green, the font size is near about the 30 px, but here I did not mention the name of the selector because the name of this selector is universal selector. So here, so the number of elements we use in between the body section, so those properties, it will remain the same as these style definitions are mentioned in a style tag open and style tag close. Now I will show you the execution screen after the execution of this code. See here, the global warming is not prediction, it's happening. Global warming must be seen as economic and security threat. So all the style definitions are equally applied over the number of elements we use under the CSS universal. So now I will explain a difference in between universal and the group selector. uh, if you require to changes some of the elements in your code, HTML code, so then you must require to go with the group selector. And if you require to apply the same style definition over the number of elements, all the number of elements enclosed in your HTML code, so then you must go with the universal CSS selectors. See here, the group selector could be able to applied over the some selected elements, but when we require to apply the same style definition over the each and every element we use, then we must require or need the universal selector. Hope you um, very much aware about the difference in between universal selector and group selector. Thank you.